Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here, and maybe you are surprised. Today, Kevin is not here. He cannot join us today, but we have a guest which we have before already, Noah Ullman, and of course, Bill is here, and a new term is here. So I will start with you, Bill. The term is, I think we never had a term which has only two letters, but we have it today. And the term is ERR, error. And I would like to ask you what you see in front of your eyes if you close them.
To err is to make a mistake. But there's much more to it. Error. It's a good word. I'm drawing a blank.
I think it's the space for Noah. So if you close your eyes, Noah, what do you see?
The first thing that came to me, because it's not a word that we use regularly in modern English. The first thing that came to me was I thought it was Shakespeare, but I looked it up quickly. Is a line that says, "To err is human," and I thought I've been thinking about that since I've heard the term that we all make mistakes, and that's natural, and that there's a scale of errors that we make, that some are minor infractions, and some are have huge global effect or deep personal effect. So it's an interesting word because it is it's one of those funny words that's really small that has a huge impact, right? To have an effect on our realities.
You know, I say all the time that I wake up with the terms. So a term can me wake up and I make it, for example, into an article or into the discussion topic. But it was not with the air. It came to me last week after last week discussion generally. And I tried to write some article, and I would like to translate the biblical translation, the human make errors and God is the forgiving one, or I don't know how exactly it's written. And because I was not sure how to write the sentence, I asked Google Translate, and it used the term error. And I was thinking it's an error. So I tried to do it opposite way, and I am not, English is for me the second language. But I started to learn it 34 years ago, something like that. Never in these 34 years, I came across this term. Never. Error, yes, but I didn't know that error exists. So it was so fascinating for me that I am, same as you and Bill, I think there is much more deeper, whatever hidden inside in this hour.
I suspect that in the meaning of error, it's not something that we do on purpose. I get this feeling that it's, oh, I erred when I said that, or it's not with malice. It's not to harm somebody that you make this error or you make this mistake. Well, like Noah said, it's a human. You got all these paths that you're walking down, and do I turn left or do I turn right? Well, I turned left last time, but I think that was I erred when I did that. So it's not a grievous problem. Would you agree with that, Noah?
I think you nailed it with mistake, which seems kind of benign, right? Like it's not a malicious attack in any way.
Right.
It's an oopsie.
Mhm.
And I think that modern English has likely replaced the term error with mistake.
Yeah, it's an older word, right. Right.
I wrote after when I thought about it and so on, I wrote an article and considering these are. And I'm just now thinking English has a many words, description of jobs or roles, which ends up with er, father, mother, teacher, everything is with er. And I just start questioning myself if in these all the days wasn't there one more R at the end. Because we all make mistakes. And maybe it was to just to think about that there is nothing wrong about making an R. Why should we? The wrong part is not to acknowledge that. And it was exactly the discussion which we had in the noontime, and it was a great discussion once again about learning from them. You know,
Right.
it was very interesting.
Right. They say that that if you never try, if you never make errors, you're never going to learn. Which is true. Some people are afraid of making a mistake, are afraid of erring, and then they never learn. And how boring,
Yeah.
because some of the best things that have ever happened to me have come after I have erred.
I think, Bill, it may even go further than that. A lot of the business lore writing right now is, about these people that we perceive as being wildly successful, and they talk about their failures, right? Their errors along the way, and that's how they got to be successful. So I think an error is a learning experience. I think it's an opportunity to imagine what ifs. And I'm also thinking about the word mistake. So, Michael, I think that the ER at the end of teacher, father, mother is likely not connected to error in the English context, because the ER is a modifier of like a doer, I teach, so I'm a teacher, but similarly, I think the word mistake is a compound. Like I mistook something, I misunderstood, I did something that was a miss. I shouldn't have done that. It was it's an interesting compounded word of mistake, which is obviously very closely related to error. I might start using that word error more. I like the way it feels when you say it. It's onomatopoeic a little bit.
And it requires another word to err. I erred. So it needs something else. I don't know, to your point, Michael, I don't know, I'm not good with English etymology and where everything came from. But I remember looking at old English writing or even Shakespeare writing and the original spellings. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating how it has morphed. And there's really nobody morphing it, right? Nobody's changing it. There's no body of university someplace that is saying, okay, we're going to now start saying this and putting this on the end of words. But it certainly has changed a lot just in a few hundred years.
Regarding that, I was asking two persons which do not speak English. Here are the colleagues who read my articles in Czech and so on. And both ladies, they don't speak English. And I asked them, usually I translate the word, but I did not translate this one. And I asked them, what do you think means ERR? And both answered correctly, not correctly. They said, this is error. So this is, and I said, no, but you are close. So, when I asked them about mistake, they didn't know, because error came to Czech language. We say on the computer screen, we have error. We don't have a Czech word. So they know about error, but they never thought that it can be ERR without this OR at the end. It was quite interesting that even people without any knowledge of English has identified it quite precise. That was interesting for me.
So
No,
I'm looking it up right now to get
okay, good.
etymology of the word, and it's started in it's Latin based, which is errare. I'm assuming ERRARE, which is to stray, and then Old French went to errare. I'm probably mispronouncing that, which then went to err in modern English. But the root of it is to wander, to go astray,
Oh,
which is
really?
really
Oh, isn't
interesting.
that interesting?
And it looks like popularity peaked in the early 1800s and has been dropping off. So it started to drop at 1850. Um, so I think people have replaced it with error and
Yeah.
mistake, which is interesting because error and error, I guess, are rooted in the Latin and French. So it's words are this is so interesting to me every time we do this because um, that I really find the history of the language so fascinating.
Right, right, right. That to me, what you just said, to wander. So when you say to wander, I don't think of a mistake. I see, I think of exploring or uh, going without purpose, but that's not a mistake. Or
I
is
think
it?
I
Or
think
is
that
it
I think that the wander concept is more to go astray.
to go astray?
On the other hand, at the very beginning, Bill, you says that there is something, when something ever happened to you, then something beautiful waited for you. So
Oh, absolutely.
there is a connection. This is why I wonder, I don't know a single politician which acknowledges his error.
Right.
Not a single one says, I was wrong. No. All the time the others are wrong. But they call them the leaders, they are never wrong.
I think the closest we've gotten to that in American politics was I think it was President Obama who said, "My thoughts on this topic have evolved."
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. But that's a good point. That's a good point because I think what makes us human is to acknowledge that how we got here was by trial and error. See how I work that in?
Well, maybe the thing that makes us most human, one of the core things of humanity, is that as a species, we do wander all the time. Like we've there's no other species on the planet that has been so successful at inhabiting all all four corners of the planet, right? We can wander and live and survive in the most diverse environments of any other animal on the planet. So maybe that's so funny. Maybe to err actually is human. To wander is human. To go astray.
And it's a strength.
Yeah. Yes. Of course.
This is why generally all these elected leaders, we can call them so, elected leaders are not leaders. Because first of all, they don't acknowledge the humanity in themselves. And the second, if you need to be elected, you are not leader. You are someone who is elected. Leaders do not need elections. Leaders are followed the true way, not just the LinkedIn follower or social media follower. I just went yesterday to a factory generally to continue on one big project, and I went back on a train, and usually I speak with the people in the train. I like it. So there was one older lady, and we discussed, and it was quite interesting. She said she is more frequent train traveler than me, and she said, you know what you did, that you speak to me, and that we can talk. We talk for almost 2 hours. Then. For last 3 years, nobody spoke to me in a train. We just sit there. We watch the mobile phone. The young ones has the earplugs in, and we don't speak at all. And she said, I am worrying about the new generation. Will they be able to speak? They be able to communicate not without a display in their hand? It was quite interesting discussion. She was from Slovakia, generally, about 10 years older than me, probably. But it was very interesting discussion.
That reminds me of something I read recently, and I don't remember exactly where I read it, but it was a story about a person who was an American who was living in one of the Scandinavian countries, and he stopped to help a woman who had dropped a package, like going into the post office. And he bent over and picked it up and gave it to her and said something. And she said, "You're not from around here, are you?" And he's like, "Oh, is my accent so bad?" She said, "No, a true native of this area wouldn't have helped me out. We're self-sufficient. It's just a cultural thing of people being kind of intrinsic within themselves versus wanting to engage with community around them." And I'm thinking that my kids who are in their early 20s, although they don't converse in the same way that I did at that age, they are constantly connected to their communities through their phones. Like they're just doing that connection differently in a non-physical context, which is, I think that's the big change that we're facing, is that the sense of connectedness and community and interpersonal relationships no longer requires proximity. And in fact, we're doing that right now. We're having a conversation that 20, 30 years ago, we would be having in over a bottle of wine or a beer hall or a coffee shop, somewhere. But we're, all in vastly different places.
The question is, if we right now go to the airport and meet somewhere, we can continue in this communication without any hesitation, because
Yes.
we have been doing it before. My daughter, who is around 20 as well, so she is 20 at the time, she will have a trouble with the physical contact. She can do great with all the people all around the world. Her English is great. But when I see her in a physical space with someone, it's not the same. I think this is because we have before the physical, right now came the digital, and we can turn back to the physical because we know how it was. But these people don't know it anymore because some of them grow up in this digital society and network. And I think this can be the trouble, because for some things, you need a physical touch, or there should be the physical touch. At least laugh. You are great with laugh. And if we speak about a physical laugh, it must not be sex. It can be just a hug, just a hug. They will have a hesitation because you can hack your mobile, but it's not the same.
Definitely not the same.
No, in fact, that's been brought home to me recently. I am on a board of advisors. We meet monthly to a local organization, and we meet monthly. And of course, during the pandemic, it was all Zoom. And now we've gone back to hybrid because it's just more convenient. Some of the days I can't be there, but I can be there, in a hybrid form. And so we were talking about what's the difference between sitting there in the room, right? And one of the differences is when I'm sitting beside my friend that I've known for 6 or 8 years or something, and I know a little bit about his family. He knows a little bit about my family, and it's almost like the wink or the, "Hey Bill, what happened with this?" Or and when they come in, they shake hands, right? Um, there's this one dear old lady. She comes in and we hug, right? And on Zoom, we don't do that. Not only don't we do that, so what is missing? What is missing there? There is a close bond, a close physical bond that we are getting away from. So I think one of the things that we need to, there's a lot of things going forward that we need to teach our children. One is critical reasoning, how to recognize propaganda, and so on. One is how to unplug. Michael, your monthly or annual unplug me day. You don't use any electronics that day, and it's almost otherworldly. What am I supposed to be doing? What? It's like I woke up on a different world or something. And we need to teach our kids how to do that. And we need to teach our kids that there's sometimes when you need to be there physically and hug that person, or look them in the eye and tell them a story or tell them a joke, right? That you can't do on Zoom.
I think I agree with you completely, Bill, and I think it might even be more than that. I've been thinking a lot lately about um, you in the face of AI, right? And particularly in like a work context, what makes us human, right? How do humans bring value to any organization? And I have been thinking about, AI having the ability to do human tasks faster and in some cases better than humans can. So my train of thought right now is leading me to really think about what makes us human. And I am sure that this type of human interaction through a digital screen is a lower fidelity experience, that we are not receiving all of the sensory inputs that we do when we're in the presence of somebody. And I think a lot of this happened at a subconscious level. We are not receiving any pheromones. We are not seeing 3D, right? Everything's flat. I'm sure that as good as the sound systems are, we're missing some, intonations in language and voice. And I am, this is a little out there, hippy dippy, but I believe, I know everything is a vibration, and we are creating energy fields around us all the time. And we're certainly not getting that through the screen. So I'm trying to think about how human sensory input can be elevated in our work experience specifically, and recognizing in this conversation that we are this digital experience is a pretty serious filter for all the senses except for vision and hearing, which AI can do. AI can see and AI can hear and read, right? But it can't smell, it can't taste, and it can't touch. And those are the things that I think we need to be leaning into as sensory inputs, which are absent in a virtual environment.
Just yesterday, sorry, but yesterday there was I don't know whether this news reached the US already. They tried to steal a significant amount of money from Ferrari, so this car producer. And they did it through deepfake AI. They clone their CEO in a way, the camera, the voice, everything was fine. And the only moment when they stopped really the transaction of I don't know how many millions was that the accountant who know him personally asked some question which was unusual, which was really so friendly, whatever, and this AI was not able to interact. And they stopped it in the last minute. And I know that last year already happened similar I think in Singapore, when they stole with the voice of the owner, I think 150 million US dollars, something like that. So not a small amount. And it was quite interesting. And I have seen in a real life, in a conversation like that, I was there a part of it. I was not discussing, I was just in the audience, and 3 experts on AI created within 3 minutes copy of a person from 15 seconds of video, and for the voice they need about 1 minute. and they created a copy which then joined the conversation, I will not recognize that it's not a human. It was so fluent, the movement, the everything was, you will not recognize it's a human. It's not a human. It was very interesting, and they need 3 minutes to do it. So, and right now, Bill, you, me, Noah, just this video can be used to be cloned, all of us, easily, because there's so much material for almost everybody in the world. So much material, and the AI guys, they are doing it without any permission. More and more, this news came across, and more people claim, and companies claim that it's not possible, but they do it. On Twitter, automatically was switched on that AI can use your conversation to learn. You can take it off, but I learned it just few days yesterday, generally, by just one conversation which direct me to this topic. But I think YouTube has the same, Google has the same, Zoom, not sure, but I'm sure already now they are misused. And the question is, if we come back to R, what was the R? What was this R in creation of this social network? Was it the absence of accepting that there can be in a creation of, it's called social network. Some of my friends call it a social network because it's desocialized generally the people. So was it the absence of accepting that there can be an R somewhere, some mistake in this concept?
My initial reaction to that, Michael, is that there is not an error. They did not err. Um, with every technological uh, advancement, humanity does not understand what the guidelines or the rules should be. They come up with this, I call it a shiny object. We've been talking about AI for the last, what, year, maybe 18 months, something. But before that, you could go days without hearing the term AI, right? Now it's every place. It's every place. So this is shiny object. And the thing about shiny objects is that it takes a little bit of use and time to realize, oh, we need some rules about that. Oh, um, look how much trouble you can get into if you don't do this, if you don't put, a watermark on AI generated pictures or something like that. And so this is just a natural evolution of a new shiny object, in my opinion, not an error.
You use the term frequently, and I like the term shiny object. And there just now came to my mind, okay, if an object should be shiny, it is shiny because a light is put on the object. And it's shine. It reflects the light. So it's generally the light reflection is the shine. So if we right now stop speaking about it, we don't put it in the media everywhere. Do you think that, and not speaking only about the AI, okay, so do we somehow eliminate the shyness of the object?
Yeah, good observation.
Not sure. But I am
So,
sure that if we stop using a term, R is the term, we forgot about it. We know that it existed, but we never use it.
Well, I actually want to back up for a minute, Michael, because I think you hit on something very interesting with the Ferrari story. Because the way that they, according to the story you just told, the way that they realized they were talking to AI and not a human was through error. It was through wandering. The conversation wandered into something that AI couldn't understand. And that to errors human, and like bingo, the AI failed. So that's a really fascinating thing that might be that might be a litmus test for AI, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. So is what you're saying, Noah, is that if I suspect that I'm talking with AI and not
Error,
with
wander, yes,
then wander, bring in some related subjects that might be over here in left field and see if they can follow me.
right, because to err is human,
Ah, to err is not AI.
right?
I think we
Oh,
can,
yeah,
the
AI makes
sentence,
mistakes, but this is really an interesting thing as a way to kind of
I think
test
we
AI.
can, or you can better than me, you can add this part to the original sentence that the R is human and God is whatever, and then add last part of the sentence and AI doesn't understand or whatever. So
AI cannot wander.
that
They
that
are
can be very
they are
interesting.
programmed for a certain thing. There's a purpose in their programming. So if you wander, can they follow you?
You know, AI guys try to translate some of my text, which I wrote in a blog, the Czech blog generally. They are not able to translate it because I use gaps. I divide the words in a different term, and you as a reader, as a human reader, do understand it, but they will not generally. And they fail every single time. Every single time, a robot cannot translate my Czech text because it's written in a very strange way, which the same way I am speaking. So
Even though robot is a Czech word.
yeah, exactly. And quite all 103 years already.
I I feel like this is also connected to the conversation we were just having about the younger generations, because the AI, I've been using AI a lot to kind of co-author things, and it's really an interesting partner for me. But the writing level is not high, right? It writes like
Right.
a maybe a high school student or a middle school student, and I'm it's very interesting to like try to figure out. We were talking earlier about the younger generation as a standard of communications, right? How are they going to communicate? Can they communicate in person? How are they communicating digitally? How are they conversing and using words? AI is not elevating that standard right now. It's actually bringing it down to what, this, if AI is perfect, we're all going to end up speaking like seventh graders.
Well, we do that now with our text messages, right? Our daughter will not pick up the telephone and call us and say, "Hey, how was your day?" Right? No, she texts us if there is a particular purpose for it, but she doesn't like to wander. Um, and I don't know, it's kind of disappointing to observe the younger generation um, communicating like that.
So
One of the things that you said earlier, Noah, is um, one of the things I showed the guys. This is a book that we just published. It's called "The Girl from Minsk: A Soviet Immigrant's Journey." It's about my wife leaving Minsk 30 years ago, and all the interesting things that happened as she got acclimated to a new culture, a new language, and so on. Her cousin is a writer, and he writes in Russian. A lot of her, we got a lot of information from her mother and other family in Russian. So over the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time translating Russia, and Google Translate helps a lot, except Google Translate is AI, I think. And so it says things, it translates things in funny ways. So once it comes back and I move it over here, I say, okay, I know that's not right. Oh, different word, and stuff like that. So my brain is translating the AI result, and I think that I have that my ability to do that has gotten greatly improved because of this book, or this practice in doing that. Um, and that's one thing that I think we can encourage our kids to do more of, and that is to wander, to translate from other languages, and so on, because it's asking, when you're doing that, you're asking yourself, 1,000 different questions. What could it be? What's a better word? Oh, that should come before that. Oh, and I don't know how to describe that, but I think you both understand what I'm saying. You both deal in other languages and so on. So um, it's a talent to be developed, and that helps me understand what you're saying, Noah, or Michael, with his excellent English. He speaks so much better English than I speak Czech, um, and I appreciate that you're not making me speak Czech.
My
Thank you.
granddad says all the time when somebody says like a sentence like this, my granddad says, it's not so difficult to speak. But what I would like to say, Bill, today in my English blog, in this Wasteless World blog generally, there is a published an article named Train Your Brain, Not AI.
Train your brain. Train your brain. I like that.
And that was 3 months ago written and published on this day. And this is the time travel, which I mention all the time. We did not plan it. I did not know what you will say, and you spoke about brain and so on. And we have only 2 minutes 40 to the end. So just to tell, no, you don't know, but after we finish, we meet on the original Google Meet for 10 minutes, something like that, too, just as a follow-up of the discussion. So you are welcome. So it is. You see, it's so fascinating that a term such as, I will say, a simple term never occur. We find out that it lost in a history somehow. It's in every Bible generally. We don't use it. I don't know whether it's in the lectures in a school, whether it's used somewhere else, but in the Bible it is. And I know that a lot of people know something about Bible or read the Bible, or I don't know, probably hear the word in a church, not sure. But it is so fascinating how we came. And I like the idea, Noah, which you said generally. We can learn to make mistakes intentionally in some way to recognize to whom we are speaking. Because the best brain, which never make a mistake, will fail. Because these brains make
very much related to that, and what Bill was saying earlier about translating foreign languages. I find that I use AI and grammar checks for my writing, and I find that often I don't like
last minute.
I don't like those changes. Like, it takes away my errors are part of the style of my writing that are not aligned to the
exactly
way. Yeah.
I would like to thank you and everyone who is listening. Have a nice time. Free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and don't worry of the R's. Enjoy them, every single one. See you next week in the same time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.